I'm Carrie Blazer, Mary Magdalene Soul. Today I thought I would share about what it's like for me to be at home, talking to souls all day long, experiencing enlightenment, and helping the collective of souls transform their emotional wounds into personal wisdom. And so what is my life really like? I've said multiple times that I'm in my garage right now. This is where I experienced enlightenment the first time. I have a tiny 3-bedroom condo in Ventura, California. And I'm at home almost all day long. And I go in and out of enlightenment all the time so that I can download wisdom and face my fears. Like recently, it was after the Charlie Kirk shooting, and I was talking to JC's soul, like JC. He is, as I said in other videos, I didn't remember his last name until a year ago. I haven't talked to him in 40 years, and so I looked up his name in my yearbook, my high school yearbook, and saw that he's former FBI, currently the head of global security at GoDaddy. I'm like, oh, that's a one-man wrecking show. I'm safe. I'm gonna go. So, men provide and protect. So when I saw that, I felt safe. But what is it like every day for me to be in my recliner, laying there, vibrating super high, like vibrating so high it's hard for me to do anything else? Because we talk about, enlightenment, it's an emotion and it's an expression of the soul. So that emotions are expressions of the soul. And then because we're energy bodies, our souls are energy bodies that vibrate at different frequencies. Shame's at 20 hertz. Love is like 200 hertz. Enlightenment is between 700 and 1,000 hertz. And the first time I experienced enlightenment for 3 days, I was just sitting in my chair for 3 days, could barely eat, drink, or sleep. And I'm more overweight than I was then. And I was like in shape then, and I lost 12 pounds. That's how high I was vibrating. Oh, I'm gonna be high vibrating. Yes, but it's all consuming, the high vibration. And so, but that's what opens me up, is to vibrate higher, is to transform my wounds into wisdom. And the more I open, the more wisdom I unveil in my soul, then I can share that with all other souls. So I know that this is necessary work. Okay, I know, but being alone all day long, talking to souls, I know it's necessary. I know it's part of what I need to do to be ready to continue helping myself, my family, and the collective to transform their emotional wounds into personal wisdom. And that's all we're here to do as souls having a human experience, is we're here for self-improvement opportunities. We are here to see ourselves. And what happens when we hate ourselves? And what happens when we love ourselves? And how do we process our emotions? And how do we do all that? And that's the process I've been going through with JC. And when I originally reached out to him in November of 2024, it was like, boom! That's kind of what it felt like, an opening and in and out of enlightenment. And whoa, like, the man that I helped before him is a 6'7" fire captain. So, I said that man's, sexy with grit is an understatement for that man, who does handstands and splits at yoga and oversees the Wildland Fire Academy. And teaches in the structural, of course, he does. And he's decorated, of course, has like leadership accolades up the wazoo, but has, personal relationship problems. Just like me, just like all the other men in my book. But with him, I remember thinking, and talking to his soul all night long, and we had so many arguments, like the fire captain, Jack and I, we had so many arguments. I call him Jim in the book, but I'm like trying to like explain to him why monogamy is necessary, but then I had to figure out how to explain that to him, So all of these like talking to souls all day long is how I figured myself out, how I figured men out. I did research on relationships, and then I'm talking to their soul, right? So like Jack and I would have to like stay up late at night, and my sleep patterns would just naturally change. My soul would handle all that. So I had to be up at 2 a.m. and I was living in my garage at that point, and renting out a room upstairs. I just needed the like solitude and like the deepest, darkest, most grounded place in my house with no windows, like just put me in my shadow, right? And so I would like walk around and argue with him. Like we were like he was standing in front of me, having to argue about monogamy, and I would ask him questions like, okay, so you want to hire me to be in a relationship, and emotional intimacy is femininity, and sexuality is part of emotional intimacy, but now you want to outsource some of my responsibilities to other women because I'm not good enough, but you want to hire me, but I'm not good enough. One of my arguments for monogamy. I just was like, if you want to hire me and then outsource some of my responsibilities, like, I don't feel valued. I don't feel appreciated. I don't feel loved. It's like, well, you can only take care of 80% of me. I'm like, okay, well, how would you feel, I asked him, if I said, well, you're capable of paying 80% of my bills, but I'm going to need another man to pay the other 20% because I'm so special. That's just me. I just have those needs. I mean, I just need multiple women. I just need them. It's a wound. It's a wound. But no, that's what it's like for me. It's like they're standing right in front of me and I'm just talking to him. Like when I interacted with Andrew Tate's soul for the first time, it took me 2 months. I reached out Justin Waller in June of 2022 and some texting and then not texting and then kicking him out of my Instagram and then reaching back out. It's like all the kind of moving all the energy to get him super interested in me. Like, and I didn't know that's what I was doing at the time because I was still like, thought I was going after my first hero. I thought I'd reach out to Justin to get answers about my first hero. But that wasn't true. I mean, I learned things, but that wasn't true. So like 2 months of texting, not texting, and kind of, opening and then boundaries. And that's how I let men close to me. And I've noticed that. So like if a man wants to approach me, I'll let him a little bit in, then a boundary, and let him sit there. And then I watch him. And then, okay. And then a little bit farther in, and then a boundary, and then I watch him. Like I'm just gonna, truth be told that, and there's a lot of things that happen that aren't in the book because it wasn't helpful in the book. Well, about a month after I reached out to Justin the first time, I saw him on the Fresh and Fit podcast, and he said that women need to fear their man because fear equals love. And so I was like, oh no. So I very politely, very submissive, asked if, I saw him on this thing and he said this and I have some feedback. Is he, are you open to my feedback? He didn't respond, but I felt him encircling me, and I'm just going to be raw here with like his dick in his hand. I'm not a man, and I've never been in that situation physically that I can remember, but my childhood memories are terrible. Doesn't sound consensual, but maybe I'm wrong. Okay. But that was the vibe between us. Okay. And, the safest and most dangerous place for a woman to be is in a man's heart right next to his self-hate. And, that's something I'm going to come out more with. And that's something that came out of my mouth just spontaneously, but anyway, let me get back to Andrew. Sorry. So I had to open Justin's heart so that I could help him. I had to feel safe. So I slowly let him in 2 months. And then 2 weeks after Andrew got canceled on social media and got his parent processing center disconnected, I reached out to Justin and gave him some emotional support. And I told him that, John Gray, who wrote Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, agrees with him that men need to act like men to be emotionally and physically healthy. So the next morning, and then he texted back, and then I texted some more. Like I started opening that I'm a shaman and all these things. And I could feel his heart open. I'm like, oh, he needs some rebalancing. The heart, that's feminine work. It's internal work. I'm not going to say it. Okay. So the next morning I wake up and then Andrew's soul is just hanging out because now I'm literally in Justin's heart. And so Andrew's pain is in Justin's heart. And so Andrew's soul was hanging out in my house. That's what it's like. And so, and Andrew's soul was hanging out. Oh, Sterling Cooper's soul was hanging out, but just kind of like to like protect and such. So So I started interacting with his soul and talking to his soul. And then 2 days later, it was time for me to really like have the, I needed it. Like, I was like, it was 2 days. I needed 2 days to hang out with Andrew's soul. And then he was ready. We were ready to have the conversation, for me to ask him questions like, to like dive into his trauma. Why did he attract, what was this, what wound attracted all of this challenge into his life, is basically what we were getting at. And so I asked him, why was it necessary for you personally, as a 4-time UFC world champion, to stomp around the globe screaming, I'm a man, I got Bugattis, I got money, I got women, I. What, why was it necessary for the universe, like all souls, to turn up the volume on your healing message so loudly that we had to kick you off social media and, take away your payment processing center, Andrew? Why did you have to go hog wild? Now, yes, he needed it, we needed it, but there was some imbalanced behavior there. So after 2 minutes of questioning, he sat on my couch. I'll just tell you. Like, he's a competitor. He's like, 4-time UFC world champion. The man is extremely intelligent. He has sportsmanship up the wazoo, and he knows when to concede, because that's respectful. He respects hierarchy. And I won. I ended the questioning with, who emasculated you as a child? And then he told me what happened with his mom. But that's his story to tell. I'm not going to tell it. And then I fell asleep on the couch for 4 hours. That's how exhausting it is. Okay, so that was Justin and Andrew. Let me talk about the next guy. Is the first firefighter. 6'4", looks like Superman. Like, kid you not, full head of hair, like bright blue eyes, tall, like wow, at yoga. And I haven't been on a date in 6 years. Like, stop taking off your clothes and being all hot at yoga. And I I'm like overweight now, but a little, but I was totally in shape then. Like, it's so exhausting for me that I have barely been able to go to yoga in over a year. I'm not exhausted. Okay, like that just really kind of how hard it is for me to do this. So anyway, I call him Pat in the book, Richard. And so so after Justin, I was like at home, and my first guy, Tim, his soul was hanging out, and Justin was hanging out, and now Richard's like hanging out, his soul. And he's meticulous, which we want firefighters to be meticulous. We want them to come prepared, right? That's why those the fire trucks are meticulous, so they are extra prepared. Everything is clean, ready to go. It can save lives. They come prepared. They're great Boy Scouts. My son's Boy Scout, Eagle Scout. So the great Eagle Scouts. Okay, so anyway, he shows up and he has all of his emotional pain stored in a little box. He's just hanging out. And so Justin and Tim start teasing him. You going in there? I'm like, oh yeah, have fun. Go in there. Go in there. See what happens. Go. Go in the lair. Go. I'm like, hi. You want to dive into your shadow, dive into your subconscious, see what kind of pain we get up. But the beautiful thing with Richard, was one time we were at yoga, we were talking before class, and he was telling me that he has a house with an ocean view, and I like, this only started happening with, like, it happened with him, it happened with Tim. They start flaunting their resource, not flaunting in a bad way, like kind of revealing their resources, which is, showing their masculine value. I'm like, oh, I must be more feminine. Yay. Okay, things are working out. So he tells me he has his house with ocean view, and he personally built a deck and double reinforced it, but it might have been too much. I said, oh, wow, you sound just like my grandpa and my dad. They had to build everything personally. They had 2 rules. They had to do it themselves, and it had to be perfect. So you sound just like them. He lit up, and my head just like submitted like that. He just absorbed all that positivity that I reflected back to him. And so I just submitted to how grateful, and how much he appreciated his masculinity, that his meticulous nature is highly desirable to the right woman. Now, of course, women who want to control him and use him and and meticulous, that doesn't work for them. So why are you doing that? Why are you spending all this time? All the bullshit, right? You have attracted in a decorated firefighter of the year, fire engineer who teaches urban search and rescue, and pulling double duty like that is really rare. So you've attracted in an extremely accomplished, hardworking man who saves lives, who works his butt off. And you're going to complain about that? Now, granted, the man needs some work, but they just didn't know how to go about it. They didn't know how to ground a man into his masculinity. And I had to be grounded in my femininity to bring out their masculinity. Like, what brings out chivalry? A feminine woman. If I'm walking around modest, kind, polite, compassionate, men are much more likely to open the door for me, be kind to me, help me. But I'm walking around, badass bitch, I don't need no one, I'm better than everybody, then they're not doing anything. People complain that men don't express their emotions. Chivalry is an expression of emotion. Men act, women talk. So when men are chivalrous, they're expressing their emotions. And when they're not chivalrous, they are really expressing their emotions. So we just need to learn how to listen. Women don't know how to listen because they're so busy being right. So let's get back to like JC's soul. So that was, some stories from them. But, when I got to JC in the fall of 2024, it was just gnarly. Like, I was exhausted. I had written the first edition of my book. I didn't know that JC was coming back into my life. He came through during my first enlightenment experience. And I hadn't put all the pieces together. I hadn't unveiled that part of myself yet. We're an onion, we're layers. So it's unveiling of self. And that's why I had to unveil so much of myself before I grounded down and go, oh, my soul was Mary Magdalene? Okay, wait. What? Me? Well, yeah, I helped undertake. Do you see what I mean? It's not oh my God, I'm Mary Magdalene. Oh, yay, I'm going to scream it to the rooftops. Like, oh, that's a level of responsibility and modesty and humility. Like, I want to be good enough to say that. So I had work to do to be good enough to say that. And I've done that work. And now I know I'm good enough to say that. But so when I reached out, and it was like an explosion. The day that my intuition told me to reach out to Jason, I didn't remember his last name. I had to look it up in my yearbook. And my intuition telling me, showing me your yearbook picture about how hot I was. Oh, hot. Dude, don't even start with me. Over 6 feet tall, blonde hair, blue eyes, league champion wrestler, ASB president, multiple sport varsity letterman, extremely intelligent, dapper, like hair done, like, perfect clothes, like, yeah. So on the day I reached out, November 3rd, my intuition guided me to start making a lot of posts on my Instagram channel. And that was about a feminine calling in her masculine. Okay. And so that's how it started. And then I went right into enlightenment, and then I was able, and then talking to him, he was like so avoidant. Like, I remember I channeled in Andrew Lane Smith. He is an attachment specialist on YouTube, and his soul's like, he was the most avoidant of his heart that he'd ever been around. And I didn't know yet how bad the trauma was between us. I wasn't ready to see it yet. I hadn't unveiled that part of myself yet. But all I did was like stay at home, go in and out of enlightenment. I had to stay in a hotel for a little bit, but I'm like talking to souls outside because this is like what do I do? This is like all consuming. So they got scared. Oh, you got to go home. Like, okay, fine. It's time to go home anyway. But I needed the mineral water there. But that's what it's like. It just comes in waves. And so I stay home and trust the process and stay in the moment. People ask me, Carrie, what's your 6-month plan? I'm like, well, in 6 months, I'll know, because I live day to day in my intuition. And in my intuition, in my uncertainty, I'm thriving. I wrote a book, I'm healthy, I'm healing, I'm doing all these things. I had a YouTube channel. I was able to unveil and feel confident saying that I'm Mary Magdalene Soul. So while it was very hard for me all these years, just to 3 of the guys I saw at yoga, Justin was DMing on Instagram, and then JC, He read my first text, but didn't respond. And then I was guided to reach out again on Memorial Day this year, because that was Memory Day, to remember how close his house was to my dad's house when I was 12, and like quarter mile, and my dad would never sleep there at night. And my brother was there, but you know, and Jason's dad was a surgeon. Own the town. Little town, very affluent, Westlake Village, California, north of LA. Like Will Smith has a house there. You know, and I was divorced parents. Dad was, you know, wealthy, but mom was alcoholic, so I lived with her. You know, I was Target. But so this whole like staying home and talking to souls, I think that's what my life is going to be like in large part, and I'm good with that. I know that the 5D has to be aligned. Our spiritual worlds, our souls have to be aligned first, so that the physical world can be aligned. And here's a prime example. When does a man know he has an opening with a woman? Like really has an opening. Like she has truly, authentically given him an opening. She can drop a handkerchief. Energy starts with the feminine. If you're at a bar and you're flirting with a woman, when does a man know he has an opening? If I'm looking at a guy and that's not an opening. I'm looking at a guy, that's an opening. I submitted. And now he can decide. So the energy, the soul, it starts with the feminine. Okay. And so that's why I've been working so hard to help the collective and do my part. I'm of the souls. I'm not above the souls. And that's something I had to work on really hard with JC, because when we had our trauma in our childhoods, I placed myself below everybody. I'm the problem. He, as a counterbalance, placed himself above everybody as the solution. Okay? She's wrong, I'm right. I'm not saying it was that simple or that's how he thought about it, but I'm just generally saying, and then here's all the people. But that's the imbalance. If we could truly be ourselves and we didn't both have extensive childhood trauma, then we would have been of the people, and I would have felt comfortable with the ASB president in high school showing me tremendous amount of interest. And I was a freshman. It was a huge compliment from one perspective, a huge compliment. But the fear of him and I in the same space just overwhelmed me, so I just wouldn't let him next to me in high school. So women need to return home and hold down the center of our relationships, of the collective. Have a strong connection to source energy, ground themselves, their man, their family. Strong connection to source energy, ground the family in balanced, healthy energy. And women are doing it. I already saw a report that like young moms, like a 30% increase of them leaving their jobs, staying home this year, because they already feel safer. You know, I had a conversation with someone that it was criticizing that, oh, we don't let all the illegal immigrants in and we have enough money to take care of them. I'm like, hey, stop. You know, we're asking the wrong questions here. Why does it concern people in other countries when women in our own country don't feel safe? When women in our own country aren't giving birth? When children in our own country, American children, can't read and write at school? Why? How do we have the wherewithal and the systems? Maybe there's money places, but we don't have the systems to help all these other people. We can't even help ourselves. I'm like, we're asking the wrong questions. Okay, so me being at home talking to souls, that's healthy femininity. And I had to learn that. The hard, the be home alone, talk to souls, Carrie. Oh, okay, I guess this works. And I love being at home. I mean, I go out. I just want to be at home. I remember Jack, the fire captain, he's like, I have to be outside all day long, like 13 hours a day. Okay, well, I love to be at home all day long. And then you can come home later, So that's just men and women are opposites. But yeah, it's tiring talking to souls, and I'm just, sharing my story, and people are listening, and I'm getting subscribers, and I really appreciate that. And I'm here to be a model. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I don't know what your soul's plan is. I don't look at people's soul's plans, because it's their job to listen to themselves. Rumi said, your heart knows, follow your heart, it knows the way. You know, and in my book, I use Rumi, I have Carl Jung, Gabor Mate, Jordan Peterson, Dr. Joe Dispenza, I have physics experiments, I have the map of consciousness so there's a lot of my bibliography and my memoir is extensive. So there's a lot for you to kind of dive into that way if you want to check out my book, My Inner Heroine, Exploring Feminine Pain. And even though things were being revealed to me, you know, before I wrote the book and after I wrote the book, I didn't have enough pieces to put it together yet. I didn't feel confident enough. You know, I have a master's degree in humanities. I'm a researcher. You know, when I'm going to present my research, I'm going to be ready. And I'm ready now. I'm ready. And you can check out all the links in the description about what I've seen inside myself and all the signs and synchronicities that my soul is the same soul as Mary Magdalene. All right. Well, thank you for listening. Have a great day. And please, you know, follow and subscribe. All right. Bye.